Hi everyone, this is Dinker Charak. I am head of solution engineering at Modern Data, and really excited to try this conversations with my colleague Sanjay. We spend a lot of time on the ground, in the field, in the battlefield, working with executives who are solving for data problem. And we thought, why not start sharing some insights. So I'll hand it to my colleague Sanjay, who will introduce himself and the topic for today.
Hey, hi Dinker. Indeed, I was also looking forward to this conversation. Hi everyone, my name is Sanjay. I lead the growth business at Modern Data for the APAC and Middle East markets. I think, like Dinker said, we spend a lot of time in the field speaking to customers, trying to understand what kind of business problems they are looking to solve, especially with data and AI. And today, I wanted to have a little detailed conversation on one specific topic, which is, I mean, there is a whole lot of conversations, discussions going on around, agentic AI, right? And they work at a POC stage, but then they don't scale beyond POCs.
Hmm.
And upon double clicking, I think it is well understood that agentic AI, enterprise AI doesn't really fail because of the AI models. Right? It fails at the data layer, right? But what does this mean in the real sense? That's what we want to uncover in today's conversation. So, Dinkar, I think that's a good starting point. If when you say, or when we say enterprise AI fails at a data layer, the obvious question is why? Because all these enterprises have been investing in data for last many decades, right?
Yes.
All of them have state of the art technologies, tools. I don't think technology is the problem. So, how do you see as why is this that AI is failing at the data layer and not at the AI level?
Sanjay, I agree with you that this is not necessarily a technology problem. I think it's more of a modeling problem. So if we think what organizations has been investing in is getting data ready for business analytics, for BI tools, for analytical tools. What that implied was that there was a layer, Sanjay, that context, business understanding. Everyone thought that the human, the analyst, has that in their mind. So
Hmm.
what they were able to do, what they were focusing on, take the raw data, make it ready for the tools, the BI tools, and the context, the understanding of the data. Am I running a bakery or am I running a steel plant? All of this was expected to be in that analyst's mind.
Hmm.
And when you take that data and you give it to AI does not have the model of this person, right? We still have not reached that stage where I can have a model of Dinker. So it totally misses that context. And when it misses that context, it tries to guess it. And
Hmm.
that's where hallucination, all of these things start happening because it does not have that context. And I think somewhere along the way, what is also happening is the dashboards, the analyst, instead of being the way in which business was able to make sense of the data, in the AI world, they kind of also becoming the bottleneck now.
Hmm.
And in absence of that context, that business, and there are a lot of tech terms people throw: ontology, knowledge graph, semantic model,
Yes.
layer, all these, right?
Hmm.
These are all implementations or specific of that missing context layer.
Hmm.
um, I think that is the reason why this business layer is failing. And Sanjay, I know that you have had so many years of experience starting from data warehouse world to now here. What do you think this BI readiness missed, which AI readiness is now needing? What are, in your point of view, few things that you have noticed
Hmm.
in your conversations and how we have been solving problem for others?
See, I think one is, I mean, going back 20 years back, right? I think the world has evolved a lot from the
Yeah.
days of star schema to where we are today. right? I
Yeah.
think the fundamentals have still stayed the same, right?
Yes.
So, the pipelines still exist. We used to call
Star
ETL,
schema still exists.
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I think in the AI world, and again, I'm not an expert thinker, like you, but from a very high level, I could make out that uh, the first and foremost thing that AI needs to be given is tell it what do I do for a living, as in what is my business, right? Now, the fancy term, no longer fancy these days, is semantic layer, semantic model.
Yeah.
We used to have that even 20, 25 years back. If there was a
Mm,
tool called business objects, and
mm,
they used to have something called a universe,
mm.
right? The term was universe, and but it was essentially the context, right? It was the facts, the measures, the dimensions, the hierarchies, and all of that. But I think over time, because it has been fragmented in multiple systems, dashboards, etc., AI needs all of it in one single place, right? That's where I see, from the sales side, when I talk to customers, what strikes me is customers are looking at semantic model as a standalone capability. That, hey, I have all these different tools, I don't have semantic model. So, as if it's like a necklace with all the beads. I have one bead missing. If I bring in the bead, I will be fine. But I fundamentally, again, not being an expert, I don't think that's the right way to look at it. Right? Is just bringing in a tool which allows you to do semantic model. Do you think Dinker makes an enterprise AI ready? Would you feel that's the right way of thinking in the first place, or is there something holistic where a change of thinking needs to come in?
I often say that specialization brings siloism, if that is a
Yeah.
term. What that means is that over years, tools became specialized in one thing. I will do governance. I will do transformations. Now, there was a need of that. There was an importance to it, right? We wanted to do those things very efficiently, and a tool focusing on that was really useful. But what it did was the universe got split into multiple silos. So
Yes.
one, there was never that unified view present. And if you take that thought process as continuity, some people say that, okay, now in this set of tools, I need a tool for semantic model. While their starting point is correct, that they need a model, they need a tool that will help them make a business sense of everything. Probably that silo, thinking of it as a silo tool or an, a kind of a thing on the side, may
Hmm.
not necessarily solve their problem, because what it is doing is that this is all your data, this is your data quality, this is your data governance. All of this needs to come together.
Together. Hmm.
Then, if I put a layer of a semantic meaning, a business understanding on top of it, be it in form of a knowledge graph, an ontology, or a semantic model, now this whole thing will make sense for us. And I derive some kind of credibility for this thought process from Gartner's move towards data management platforms, where they're
Hmm.
bringing together, saying that, hey, good data management platform is which has all of these capabilities in sufficient level
Hmm.
for someone to make sense of AI. And I do want to talk about LLMs and agents, and why agents have taken this to the next level. But
Hmm.
Sanjay, I do recognize, right, that it's not the technical people who are only defining what AI is the business users who are actually on the driving seat for
Right.
one of a technology and giving it a direction. And the amount of conversations we have with business folks and their ambitions, their excitement. And I think somewhere there lies the root cause of one of the things that you were talking about, is that business gets excited, they get a POC going, but the data is not reaching that level. So the POC does not go into the production, and the
Hmm.
rest of the organization is trying to struggle to come up to the speed of business.
Hmm.
And I think they make the mistake of saying, I need one more tool on the side, rather than thinking, which is that place where all of this will come together.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what that does, Sanjay, is that in an already crowded ecosystem of tools,
Hmm.
head of engineering or data gets, oh my God, another tool.
Hmm.
So while bringing together is important, what's your experience on how they see, oh my God, is it going to be another tool which brings everything together, or is it just a wrong positioning and they're not seeing the value itself? How do you address this kind of question when someone says that, I agree, I need to bring everything together, but are you telling me I need to get one more tool?
No, that's
What's
a
your
very valid point, Dinker. And in fact, I just made a LinkedIn post recently. See, one trend that I see is people understand the gap now. People, meaning, customers understand the gap, and exactly the right way of, the way you explained that the missing business context is what is preventing AI from taking off, right? But, I don't think, it is about thinking, or at least from the client's mindset, whatever I could read, it's about, oh, I need to bring in one new tool. You would be surprised, Dinker. Last 1 month, at least 5 meetings I have had with customers who are basically going down the route of rebuilding a new bronze, silver, gold, layer, this
Mhm,
time for AI, right? And obviously, in I mean, in that context, the customer's typical objection is, okay, why do I need an additional layer? I'm anyway rebuilding my gold layer, right? And I just wonder, and I often ask this question back to customers: what gold layer are you building? Is it the same gold layer of yesterday, of, that was coined in 2019, right? For a very specific purpose, targeted for dashboard, better dashboarding, etc. Or have you really asked how does a gold layer should look like in the AI world, right? Most of them are not. It's just that, we are just going ahead with, of course, there's a new technology stack and people are building it. And that's what, I am just wondering, Dinka, would love to hear your thoughts. That do you think that entire bronze, silver, gold, that classification of architecture, is it, I mean, are the days gone, I mean, shouldn't we relook into the definition of gold and try and come up with a new definition, or if not a new name completely?
I think there is value in those three stages, but I think what has happened is that now there is actually a fourth stage. Now, should we call it a new gold? Should we call it a platinum layer, which is now sitting on top of structured data, which has measures, dimensions, but this one also now has descriptions. It has tags that this is a PII. It has a business ontology on top of it. I have an entity customer, I have an entity account. Customer opens an account. So there is a relationship between these two entities. So the all of these things which bring the business context to that data, I
Hmm.
think probably is either a new gold layer, updated gold plus, or
Yeah,
maybe a platinum layer on top. And I think if people start thinking that, hey, now this is the platinum layer which I need to build, then probably one, they will move away from siloed thinking that each tool has its golden, but if your organization needs this platinum layer, it needs to come together.
sure.
Not necessarily always meaning that data needs to move, data needs to come together, but a context layer needs to unify this whole data. And that context layer need to have the business information, and the context layer need to be ready to be consumed by non-humans. And
Right.
that is one major shift that has happened, is that the data is now being consumed by machines, algorithms, LLMs. See, with LLM conversation, if I'm asking a question, it gives me a response. I have an opportunity to course correct. I can say that, hey, I did not mean this, forget the previous answer, look at it again. But if you're looking at agents, they just run. You have no control. So agents need even tighter a much more purer version, refined version of this platinum layer. And this missing piece is, I think, why, while POC gives you sufficient to give
Mm,
you a flavor of what's the possibility,
mm,
for going into production without this platinum layer, you will fail. And I feel this layer, the business layer, which in medallion architecture maybe is a fourth layer, as a platinum layer, productizing the data. Right. I think that is what is missing, and absence of that is the root cause of why POCs are not going into production. And Sanjay, you have seen a lot of these failures. You talk to people who come to you, who come to us and talk about it. Is there a pattern you're seeing in these failures in form of a realization that I need this platinum layer? Or do you think people still are thinking of it as a tool problem alone?
No, so like I said, I still see people think of it as two different or two or three different variants. One, I bring in a new tool,
Hmm.
and my problem is solved. The first premise that I started with,
Yeah.
right? I need a semantic model, then I will be fine. So let's search for a tool. So that's one category.
Yeah.
Now I am seeing, a cohort of customers we are speaking with who thinks that the architecture itself is not capable of handling AI requests. So let's rebuild again, rebuild what I already have,
Yes.
but on a new technology stack maybe, right? So I'll build bronze, silver, gold again, right?
Right.
Um, I mean, these two are the broad cohorts that I feel. And but then one question keeps coming back is, are these the only two options? Uh, is there a third option? Is there a better option where you can still achieve what you want to achieve, but don't have to reinvent what you have. You don't have to throw away what you have, right? And that's where I think when I introduce data OS, as a solution, as a third alternative, I think there is a lot of reception in terms of wanting to know more, right? So I think that's how I would typically categorize. See, one example I'll give is, of course, I can't name the technology, neither the customer, but I have instances where one of the most largest reputed companies,
Mhm.
right, using best of the breed, data management technologies that are out there, spending close to a crore. A crore in US dollars terms would be around $100,000 a month, right? A month on one side. Yet, on the business, they ask for data for specific use cases, 50, 60, 100 times a
Yeah.
month. Each one of those requests takes 3 to 4 weeks for the team to give the data. So you
Mhm.
see the big gap, right, which exists. On one end, I am spending serious money on best of the breed tools, technologies to manage my data better. But then when business is asking for data, when there is a specific need and there is a lot, right, 50, 60, 100 requests a month is not a joke. And for each of the requests, I have to take 3 weeks of people time to deliver that, right? That's what, if I have to summarize, Dinker, I think, your point is that gap is because probably there needs to be something called a platinum layer, which has
Yes.
to be brought in. Because bronze, silver, gold will obviously be there, it will serve its purpose, right? But then the platinum layer, the missing layer, whatever name we might want to pick, that should be all about wrapping context of your
Yes.
business around the data which is probably residing in silver and gold. Is that a right summary of? Uh,
Yes, yes, and we should dig deeper in this in our next conversation.
oh, absolutely,
And would love folks who are listening to share their opinions in the comments, ask their questions so we can talk about it in next one. So that also gives an indication to everyone that this is not a one-off conversation, and we'll try to do it very
Yes,
often, quite regularly.
absolutely.
Thanks, Sanjay. This was really useful.
Yeah,
And
thanks to
while
you.
I'll see you in work more often, but see you here in a week or so. Take care.
Bye then, Dinker. Bye, everyone.